tension grips Eastern Europe once again. And as the world watches modern conflicts unfold, we're reminded of a moment in history when the fate of millions hung by a thread. May 9th, known as Victory Day, marks the Soviet Union's triumph over Nazi Germany in 1945. But this celebration, filled with fireworks and parades, has roots in blood, resilience, and unimaginable sacrifice. What really happened on the Eastern Front? Why does this day stir so much emotion and so much controversy, even now? Stay with us as we journey through the trenches of time, uncovering the deeper meaning behind one of the most powerful commemorations in modern history. In the late 1930s, two totalitarian powers stood poised for dominance: Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler and the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin. In a move that shocked the world, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed in 1939, a non-aggression agreement between these unlikely partners. But the illusion of peace was shattered on June 22nd, 1941, when Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in human history. The Nazi war machine swept across Soviet lands, devastating cities, burning villages, and massacring civilians. This betrayal would ignite the deadliest front of World War II, one that would claim over 20 million Soviet lives. In Russia, World War II isn't just remembered, it's felt. Referred to as the Great Patriotic War, the conflict became a fight for the very survival of the nation. Cities like Leningrad endured a 900-day siege where starvation killed hundreds of thousands. In Moscow, citizens dug trenches with bare hands. But it was Stalingrad that turned the tide. For months, brutal street fighting claimed lives by the minute. When the Red Army finally encircled and defeated the German Sixth Army in February 1943, the psychological blow to the Nazi regime was immense. From that point on, the Red Army began its march westward, toward Berlin. From Kursk, the largest tank battle in history, to the liberation of Kyiv, Warsaw, and Vienna, the Red Army's path was paved with both heroism and horror. Towns were razed, millions displaced, but the resolve never faltered. By April 1945, the Soviet flag flew at the edge of Berlin. The final days of the Reich were a chaos of smoke, rubble, and defiance. On May 2nd, Berlin fell to Soviet forces. Days later, on May 8th, Germany officially surrendered to Allied forces. But for the Soviet Union, already into May 9th, due to the time difference, that date would forever be etched in history. Victory Day was born. In 1945, Red Square erupted in celebration, streets filled with weeping mothers, jubilant soldiers, and a nation that had endured the unthinkable. But amid the joy was deep grief. The Soviet Union had paid the highest price. Entire villages vanished, families wiped out, and cities turned to ash. Still, Victory Day was more than a win. It was a defiant statement. We survived. Stalin declared a national holiday. The day was to be remembered not only as the defeat of fascism, but as a day of collective Soviet identity, forged in fire and sacrifice. As the Cold War dawned, Victory Day evolved into something more symbolic. Military parades showcased Soviet strength. Veterans became walking legends. Monuments like the Motherland Calls in Volgograd towered above the cities. But history is never simple. The brutal sacrifices of Soviet soldiers stood beside darker realities: forced conscriptions, gulags, and repressed wartime truths. Still, Victory Day remained sacred, uniting generations under a banner of pride, pain, and patriotism. After 1991, as the Soviet Union collapsed, so too did its centralized narratives. Former republics re-evaluated Victory Day's meaning. In Ukraine, the Baltics, and elsewhere, the day became contested, seen by some as a symbol of Soviet domination. But in Russia, Victory Day became more important than ever. Under Vladimir Putin, it transformed into a grand spectacle of nationalism. Each year, tanks roll through Moscow, Warplanes fly over Red Square, and Putin's speeches echo with historical gravity. Yet outside the politics, Russian families still visit war memorials, carry portraits of lost relatives in the immortal regiment marches, and remember, not governments, but the loved ones they lost. May 9th is more than a page in a history book. It's a mirror, reflecting the scars of war, the resilience of people, and the complicated legacy of victory. It reminds us what happens when fascism is allowed to grow, and what it costs to stop it. In times like these, with war once again threatening Europe, the echoes of Victory Day ring louder than ever. If you believe history should never be forgotten, help us keep these stories alive. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, hit the like button, and subscribe to join our growing community.